All right. Well, thank you all for coming and also for enabling me to be on sabbatical. So in fact, since Carol is here, can we give her a round of applause for helping
for your presence.
Yes, it wouldn't be possible without you, so thank you. So I'm going to have two different presentations because there's a lot to cover. The main project that I had was building, well, really designing and then building a custom Playscape for Charlie. And then I'll talk a little bit about the church stuff that I thought about as well, which I'm calling organic discipleship. And then next week, I will have a 6-year-old helper to demonstrate some robotics, 3D printing. He wants to show you the virtual reality headset. So I'll bring in a lot of different things. Oop, that reminds me, I do have one visual. I think he's gonna make us. Well, Caleb has access to a lot of different technology at a young age, and someone who's happy to teach him. But he has built a robot that he wants to show you, and he'll show you how he programmed it. And I'll bring in a more advanced robot that I built, and we'll have all the fun tech stuff. I won't be able to bring in my laser cutter because it's too big and too difficult to move. But I will definitely have at least one 3D printer running while we present. So next week will be all the fun toys. And if anyone wants to challenge him in a robot duel, we'll bring the dueling robots as well. But I warn you, he's ruthless. So for Charlie's Playscape, you can get kits, right, or Playscapes, but Charlie has some unique needs, mainly due to his seizures. Now he's physically, normal, other than the seizures, so he can climb. In fact, he loves to climb. His nickname at Adams Camp is Spider Monkey. So they have this big climbing wall that's like 2 stories tall, and he just zips right up it and rings the bell. I mean, he loves to climb. Now, obviously, you have to build some guardrails in there. He usually knows when his seizures are coming, and so he usually gets into a safe place. So part of it, though, is it's always possible he could fall. So I want it to be high enough where he's interested, because if it's too short, he is like the danger seeker. Like my dad said, if you ever want to child-proof a place, just let Charlie into it and see where he goes, and it'll be the most dangerous thing. So he'll sniff all that out for you in just a couple of minutes. Yeah. If you want an inspection, Charlie can do this for you. So it's got to be high enough where he's interested, but low enough that if he were to fall, it would be, it would hurt, but not be dangerous, So, and all of the ones I found are either too low or too high. So, also he loves to dig. That's like his favorite thing in the world. You can imagine how we feel about that in our yard. So one of the designs that I came up with was putting in a digging pit on the top level. And you'll get to see that. And it's filled with basically rubber, so he can, so it doesn't, attract cats and things like that, other things you have to worry about. And he loves tools, like real tools. He likes toy tools too, but he really loves, if I say, Charlie, we're gonna get out the tools. Now, if you get the ladder, that's really good. Yeah. Yeah, we were repainting a room, and he saw that there was a ladder in there, and he snuck in and found a hammer, and he's like going around the room. You're like, ah! So you have to watch him. So one of the things I came up with is an activity wall, and the tools, they're real tools, but I attached them to the wall so they can't walk off. And made some stuff that he can do right there on the activity wall. We want to be able to see him from the house while he's playing outside, obviously. So vertical slats on an upper level, make it where it's really hard to see what's going on inside. So I had to change the design, and we'll see what I did there. And he knows the seizures are coming, and he likes to like lean up against something. So I designed it where 3 of the walls on the top level he can lean up against without falling through. And then there's one side that's open that has the slide and a climbing wall. And you can see up here, sorry, that's the next slide. So that doesn't come in at all, did it? Well, so I'll just walk you through. So on one side, there's a climbing wall and a slide. And then on the top, I made, I was going to do these vertical slats, and I ended up going horizontal and adding in plexiglass. So the walls, there's not a whole lot of vertical slats, it's just the horizontal ones. And because of the plexi, he can lean up against it without falling through. And even if the plexi weren't there, it'd be really hard for him to fall through. But that makes it where we can see through, and he can just lean against it and feel secure. I wanted it to be very, very, very sturdy because I know my child. So I dug it down 6 inches below grade, and then 24 inches down below that for the posts, which was the least fun part of this entire project, as the grade was worse than I thought. And I wound up moving way over a cubic yard of dirt, which I am very slowly disposing of. We've distributed it wherever we can in the yard, and there's still a lot left. So that was the hardest part. I also modeled it in 3D. So I actually used a CAD program and modeled each of the boards and on all of the cuts and measured the fit. And I did all of this before all those little lines are showing you the 3-dimensional orientation of the boards. So those are called normals. So this let me kind of iterate on the design a few times and figure out exactly what my cuts are going to be, so that then I could know exactly what my bill of materials would be and know exactly what to order. And exactly how many boards. And I ordered 1 extra of everything, and I had 1 left of everything. So I got it right on. Yeah. No, this is a original design completely from me. Yeah, so the question for those who are watching online, the question was if I had a kit or a design that I was working on. And so I looked at other designs, just like on Pinterest or I have some DIY sites that I really like, and they had built some things. So I took features of different designs and then made it all up myself. So this is a Cody original. And I also posted it on a website, a hardware geek website called Hackaday, and they host projects. And so some people gave me feedback on that, and they had some good feedback. So they were talking about like splinters, because I sanded everything, and I'll get into some of the problems that I had in a little bit. But they also pointed out, well, the platform, it's going to get like warped and everything, and I realized that's a great point. So I switched it to composite decking on the bottom and the top. And I was going to do like this whole fake grass thing on the bottom. And I was like, I should just do composite decking. This is going to be way easier. So he has composite decking on the bottom level, which is right at ground level, and then on the top as well. And because of the weirdness of COVID supply chains, they were cheaper than the wood would have been. So yeah, I was like, this whole thing was 3 to 5 times as expensive as it would have been any other year. But yeah, so here we go. March through May, I started, I finished the design kind of pre-sabbatical so that I could order supplies, and lumber was, impossible to find, especially pressure treated. So I ordered it all. And I, in March, had set aside the entire month of June to build it, which meant I had nothing. No lumber, no slide, nothing. So, and no expected date either. Yeah, it was all supposed to come like June 1. They gave me a date. It was lies. So kept pestering them, and eventually, at the very last week of July, the lumber finally arrived. And also, anyone here ever purchased lumber? So what do you do when you go purchase it? You comb through the wood to find the things that aren't atrocious. That's all you can get these days, is not atrocious. That's the best you can get. So if you order it online and they pick it from their warehouse, do you think they send you the choicest bits? No. So, yeah, the one that's on top, that's what they're going to send you. So that was also interesting, was getting, you know, all the stuff is warped and there's like holes in it, and it, so I had to modify a lot of things, but we got there. So then August was frantically building the Playscape. Now I was lucky. This funny family story. My dad was planning to come up because Becca and Caleb went to Michigan where her family is, and so my dad was going to come up, just him, and because my dad is Charlie's favorite person in the world, so there's going to be a chance for the two of them to hang out. And my mom asked me, you know, like in June when we set this up, or it may have been late May, oh, do you want dad to help you with the Playscape? I was like, oh no, I got all of June set aside. That's going to be done by then. Famous last words. So I was very grateful that my dad was there. Yeah, bring in the relief. So first week of August, we did a lot. So here's the digging. One of my favorites. So also like late July is the perfect time to be digging. And it was a hot year too. So you can see that's a 3 foot, sorry, that over here, that's a 3 foot level. So you can see how far down I went. Yeah, so that was fun. My favorite tool is sitting on a bucket, and it sprays, it's a mister. So, so that was really useful. Sighting it in the yard was also important so that we could have a good, you know, visual line. And I also tried not to completely ruin my neighbor's view. Then it was setting a reference post, and then start getting the rest of them, and then realizing, oh no, I got to dig further, and then no, I got to dig further, and then no, I got to dig further. And I'm anal, so over here is I used a program, an open source program, and I just drew it like the top down view of where the posts would be, and exactly, you know, they're supposed to be 3.5 inches for a 4-inch post. And so I placed them, and then I could use that to mathematically calculate what the crosses should be to make it perfectly square. And I knew it wouldn't actually be exact, but I wanted to know how far off I was. And I ended up getting it within a 1/2 inch on the bottom and the top, even with the warped boards. So that was a lot of work to get the posts, you know, precisely right. But it was worth it, because my dad and I, you know, can stand on the top, work on it, and it's solid. So that was nice. You can see back here the dirt pile growing. There's the composite decking, and you know, you can see it's, you know, it's set in so that this is the lowest point on the grade. And then up here, there's my dad helping. And then we put this little roof on it as well. And so Charlie is a few inches shorter than this here. So he's got a little bit of room to grow. And I can stand under there too, you know, just by crouching a little bit. So it's a good size for him. There's Caleb helping me. Yeah, and so there's the horizontal slats. So it's really easy to see in, and then the plexiglass covers it so that he doesn't fall out. I also, yeah, it was that was a nice thing to figure out. Oh, that's the view from the back as the sun was going down. So it's kind of a nice view up there for Charlie. Here's the digging pit, the pièce de résistance. So I changed the back wall to solid plywood because I realized it was looking right down into my neighbor's yard. I was like, that would feel weird to me. And Charlie likes to watch, it's like, oh, they're mowing, So for everyone's sake, I made that a solid wall, just for everyone's sake. So I thought the decking would be narrow enough that the chips, those mulch, the rubber mulch wouldn't fall through, which of course means I was wrong. So I had to take it all back out, and then I put in that's weed barrier on top of it, and then filled it up with the rubber mulch and put in toys so that he can dig in it. And so it's about, the top level is about half digging pit and half just decking so that he can come up. And you can see there, it's kind of hard to see, but that's the plexiglass. So it's really clear and goes all the way to the bottom. Yeah. Now he does throw things down the slide, but then you can toss it back up. And because it's got the solid wall in the back, you can just throw it and it. Yeah. So there's the climbing wall that I built. And I have more of those, and I can move them around wherever I want. So it, oh yeah. Oh yeah. He, and, oh yeah. 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 He zips up climbing wall. So that's a really easy one for him. I made it a little more slanted just to make it a little safer, and also to make it easier for Caleb, since that's the only way up, and Caleb likes to play in it too. Yeah, you have to go up the climbing wall. I've done it. Yeah, no, everything in this is over engineered. So that's designed for like 350 pounds of pressure. You're standing on one of them. So everything in this is very solid. As you can see here, I did metal, corners. That's like a single piece that ties the whole thing together. Everything on it is just, there's like, 18 screws that are structurally rated. So it is solid. But that's what we wanted. And then the slide, that was another journey, because all the lumber came in and I finished it all, and the slide still hadn't arrived. And that was the thing that was supposed to come first. And now the entire world was out of slides. Not like this kind of slide. All of the slides of any kind in the entire world, they were all gone. And but then I found this one Chinese company that said, yes, we have them in stock. Do we believe them? No. Now, I thought it might be a little delay, but months later, they said, yeah, we can't actually guarantee a delivery. And it was supposed to be 10 days. And it's been 90. So I happened to find one at Home Depot that they had just gotten a shipment in 90 days later. And so then they were finally able to ship me this one. And oddly enough, this is the one I had wanted at first, and it was just out. And so I had ordered an inferior one, but canceled that one and got the one I wanted. So that is the only way down. Well, you can go down the climbing wall, but yeah. And I have been down the slide. I tested it first. So it's also it's rated for like 250 pounds. So it's doing okay. Well, he's just good at climbing. Like that's his, he knows how to do it. Yeah, he knows how to do it. Yeah. And he loves climbing. So that's about ideal for him, but it's about equal. Sometimes he goes down the climbing wall, sometimes he goes down the slide. He likes both, and you can see, hopefully this actually plays.
All the pictures bind together are called, but also
Come on down, Charlie.
Picture collection.
And then if you want it, here's the Slowmo version. Caleb's wanting to get in himself, so he's trying to push Charlie down. Love the smile on that.
That's it. That's the thing.
Yeah. How are we on time? We're good. Okay, so here's the tools.
Wow.
So I made these. Those are, so this is a, it's a real screwdriver, and it's attached with paracord, so he could he could be swinging from that thing and it's not coming off. And those are, real bolts, and I attached them the same way on the back here that I did. These are T-nuts for those who are tool people. So it's the same thing that I used for the climbing wall. So again, he could be pulling on those things and they're not coming out. And I have nylock washers on the back, which the worst thing to do is to like get super glue inside the threads, because they'll never move again unless you never want them to move. So those are super glued nylock. You're gonna have to cut that thing off with a grinder. So he can screw it all the way in and all the way out, and they never go anywhere. So those are just permanent. So he can, just fiddle with it, and he enjoys it. So, and yeah, so this is, tied, knotted, and then I wrapped it like a tennis racket, with duct tape. So, not going anywhere. He'll come up with something to surprise me. But and the post, this post is my good post. So it's the one without holes in it. So I made sure, he likes to like dig at things. So I figured if I made it too close to one of the posts with holes in it, he was going to be. Yes. So I made sure it doesn't reach to any of the other posts where he could be digging it. It's all these little details. It was mostly a challenge in design. All right, so this one, if you've ever been to like a children's museum or something like that, where they have these little things on the wall where you can move it around. So I wanted to build my own, and I'll pass this around if you want. So it's a combination of the laser cutter that I got for Sabbatical. It cut out this path, and I drew the path. So this is my design here, and I can make it do whatever I want. And then I 3D printed a little bottom mount and a top mount, and then I have these metric, screws that go into it. And you have to have a little play in it so that it can actually move around. So it took a few iterations of designing that. And to make this stronger, the little bolt you can see it's set inside the 3D print. So to make it really strong, you make it a little smaller than the bolt, and then get a soldering iron and heat up the bolt to the point where it's actually melting the plastic. And then you push it in, and then as it cools off, the plastic grips it. So it's in there super, super tight. So this is just a fun thing, and I'll show you there's the video in a little bit, but it just has, so I wanted mine to be a little bit different, of course. So it's actually a dump truck that I'll show you in a little bit, that he moves around, and you can put stuff in it. And then down in the bottom corner where the recycling center is, there's another little bucket that attaches to it, and so he can dump into the bucket and move it around, just for fun. So you can pass it around, you can see the design. So that was my, with everything technology, you test it, you make a prototype, and then it doesn't work. And then you change it and you make another prototype, which still doesn't work. And then maybe the third time. Oh, yeah. Well, Charlie doesn't have a long attention span. So, but he does, when I first put all of this in, he was out there for like an hour and 15 minutes. And his normal attention span is about 8. So it was a big, he had this whole scenario going. The whole yard was in play. He was taking stuff from one part to the other. It was really cool. He was having a lot of fun. So yeah, all of these pictures I just chose because he likes these things. And then that path, I also, these are where I was just mocking out where the mounting holes would be, because you have to space it out a little bit. It can't be mounted right on the wood because that the bottom mount has to be able to move freely, which eventually caused me problems that I didn't know about.
Sell your idea.
I generally like giving them away. So here's how I built it, which is, it doesn't matter that you can't see the text, you wouldn't understand it anyway. So I programmed it in 3-dimensional math. So it's called OpenCAD, and you build it with 3-dimensional primitives, so like cubes and cylinders and spheres, and you can add them and you can subtract them. So it's like punching holes. So like this, this right here, you know, is a cube for the little lip, another cube for the little lip, a cube for this part, a cube for this part, and then cylinders to punch holes where the screws are going to go. And then I built a little module that you can put in if you have countersunk screws. You can put in what the top and bottom of the countersunk parts are, and it makes the hole for that so that it comes in flush. So those are all the different parts. That's the bucket up here. That's the bucket that mounted. And this one I did correctly. All the others I did incorrectly, but I didn't know it until I tried to mount it. But it worked okay. My problem became, well, I'll show you when I show you the picture of how it turned out. But so for 3D printing, we'll see this next week. But this is what you do: is you take that model, and then it brings it into this program that will. So that's like the build plate of the 3D printer, and you can see it's kind of hanging in the air, right? You can't do that. You can't print into thin air. Well, you can within tiny little constraints. This one's way over those constraints. So what I have to do, and it automatically does this, you tell it, hey, I've got a part that's hanging over the air, give me some supports. And it automatically goes in and adds these things that you can rip off. So it's designed, it's kind of like a perforation on on paper, where it's designed to rip off. It has these very light bindings that are theoretically easy to rip off. That's 70% true. And then you get the file out and, and do the rest of it. But that's how you have a design. And so you have to worry about that whenever you're designing something, is how is this actually going to be built? If anyone's ever done manufacturing, you know that there are tiny little details that might make the difference between easy to manufacture and really difficult to manufacture, or the machine does the whole thing, or a human has to go in and polish it off later. And those are huge differences in your process. So you have to think about the reality of the tools that you're using when you're designing it. But all of this stuff is 1,000 times better than when I started 3D printing 7 or 8 years ago. So there's the dump truck.
Oh,
And I was going to make it a little more complicated, but I couldn't find something I wanted. So I just built that myself out of little primitives, and also made it, as you can see, there's this middle part with the countersunk hole, and that's where it mounts to the bottom piece. And then I have, on my laser cutter, I just cut out some clear acrylic to glue on that edge so that he can see inside of it when he puts stuff in. So there is the back, and this was where I discovered my problems. Oh, in the bottom corner, that's the laser cutter, by the way, right there.
good grief.
And that's one of the things I built with it, is just a little riser, and it has pegboard inside. One of the anyone ever built boxes before, like woodworking? Well, getting it square. Yeah. It sounds easy. It's not. With a laser cutter, it's really nice because I just rough cut it a little bigger than I want and told it, and it has to fit inside that. So there's only so big you can go, but you make it a little bit bigger, and then I draw the shape, and it has like the little dovetail, joints, and it just cuts it all out, and all the pieces fit together perfectly square. It was so nice. And I have these,
The modern version of that, in the house,
yeah,
I mean, that's just, and that lasts forever.
yeah, so it's not going to go anywhere.
Have you done a similar project?
Well, I didn't bother with the joints, like the dovetailing, because I don't have like the stuff to do that easily. Yeah, so I don't have the bits. So I've done a little bit of oh my gosh, like with the router.
Yeah.
So, and that's annoying. So it was pretty nice it just fits all together. And I have these giant 3D printed clamps that I have to clamp things at right angles that have little cutouts so that like the glue doesn't get on it. So I just clamp them together, and it makes that angle, right angle. Yeah. And it's huge, it's large. I've seen them in wood before, but I have 3D printers, so I might as well make it perfectly square. So my problem was that I made this out of 1/4-inch acrylic. So Don, when you start cutting holes at a 1/4-inch acrylic, how much rigidity does it have? Not a lot, right? I didn't think about that. So when I started cutting these, not all that much holes in it, now it's like, boom, boom, boom. Like, So I could have recut it out of wood, but then I would have to mount the pictures on top. And Charlie, with a screwdriver, not gonna work. So I wanted to have the pictures mounted underneath the acrylic so that they would last. So instead, I measured out, as close as I could get for these different pegs, these little supports. So every place that it was bouncing a lot that I could fit in a support, I put it in. And then super glued it in the right place after I drilled it with the drill press, and so that then I could just put it on and then come in from the top, and it would be much more supported, which mostly worked. So there it is with the kind of all assembled, and there it is on the wall.
Oh, you need to focus on all that really well.
Yeah,
Well, you go to self-study because Charlotte's going to be anywhere like this.
I know. Now the problem would be finding the labor to build this custom thing. That'd be the fun. Oh, you can see over here the I got a wood filler putty that's like this exothermic epoxy to put it all in, to put it in the holes to fill it, so that he has less ability to dig the holes out. And there you can kind of see it in action.
You think that relaxing for people also,
Yeah.
it helps not stimulate maybe?
I mean, he's a little different on that. He does get excited on it, but I haven't seen him have any seizures, doing this. Oh, that was another one. That support piece at the bottom was supposed to be in the middle, but I hadn't planned for the fact that it was going to hit the bottom support, and so then I had to move it. So all construction, you run into problems. Yeah, we still got 9 minutes, so we're good. Any comments or questions on the Playscape before I get into the churchy stuff? At least on that.
Well, I'm sure you find it very.
Yeah, yeah, it is very rewarding. The digging, not rewarding, but everything else.
Can you bring them over to my house? I have lots of
Yeah, he loves to dig snow too. And I've been working for years on getting him to take it off the driveway instead of back onto the driveway. So we're still working on that. Where I can send him out. Our street has this huge crown. And so you got to get ahead of steam before you try that. So I do dig out part of the street so that we have a little more traction, and I can send him there. And most of what he does is helpful. So that's where I have him, dig the street, Charlie. And so yeah, getting him productively digging is the hard part. But he does like it. And we got him some extra, like his birthday was in September. So we got him some more diggers and things. And I didn't have to throw away my scrap pile because Charlie has taken over the scrap pile, and he takes it around the yard and like puts things together, and he likes to take it up to the digging pile and make it go down the slide. And so a lot of the little, we'll find out. The Playscape itself should be okay, even if it gets snow on it. It's designed for drainage. So, but most of it, because it has the 3 solid walls and a roof, it's not going to get a whole lot on the top. But on the bottom, I'm sure it'll be. And I also have a hammock chair I haven't hung up yet, but there's a little hammock chair that he can sit in that comes around him. And I'll put that on the bottom at some point. You got to keep it changing so that he likes it. Well, for the last bit, so organic discipleship. So this is, and I talked about this in a sermon not that long ago, but I was trying to think of putting together a discipleship structure. And like the churches I previously worked in they had like one thing that they did. And we'll talk about this with Session later too. But so one of the churches I went to, it was Wednesday night. There was a meal. They had a chef on staff. There was small groups. There was youth groups. It was community. It was church night. Wednesday was church night, and it worked great as long as you had Wednesday night free. If you happen to have something you couldn't, move, then you missed out on 80% of the life of the church. In Bethlehem, it was small groups all the time. Everyone getting a small group. But we did the Spiritual Pathways sermon series right before I went on sabbatical, and we talked about all those different ways. So like if you're an ascetic, or if you're if you enjoy solitude, a small group is pretty much the exact opposite solitude, right? And so God may have designed you to hike in the woods praying, and a small group, if it's like you got to get into a small group, well, how does that fit in with solitude or any of these other spiritual practices? So it was good because we knew where to send people, and we got 1,100 people in the small groups, and they mostly worked for people, but not for everyone. So kind of thinking about churches I know who have had a plan, but it had gaps. And I wondered, could I put together a plan that could handle the stuff that we all share and have the ability to personalize for all these different spiritual pathways so that no one is left out? So it's a lofty goal. And it's not really new. The stuff that I have here, it's stuff you've all heard. It's sermon series we've done, but I put together all the best things that I have found or done and tried to put them together. So, I always talk about trees because there's a lot of shared, every tree has certain things, like they've got roots, there's some bark, there's some branches, there's some leaves, but each kind of tree, there's differences between them. And even within the same species of tree, they're all a little bit different. So there's some shared stuff and there's some unique stuff. So that's kind of how I approached this. So to become disciples, and that's like we talked about that in the purpose sermon, when Gilbert was here, that's our job, is to go and make disciples or to be Christ's witnesses, is these foundational things that everyone needs, and then your uniqueness. Because like if you just walk in nature and you never open your Bible and you never pray beyond requests, you're missing out on the foundational things. Or if Ephesians talks about do not neglect to meet together. This is the habit of some. You've got to meet together. So reflecting on the Bible, praying beyond requests, and having a connection with the Christian body, those are like the foundational things that everyone needs, no matter their spiritual pathway. And then from there, we can help you find your uniqueness and try to support you within that. I also wanted to give suggestions for different stages. So if you're a new follower to Jesus, if you're a parent wondering, how do I invest in, the faith of my kids, because kids are with their parents way longer than they are in Sunday school. If you're feeling stagnant, that's a common thing, especially for people who've been in faith for a long time. If you want to go deeper, if you're like, I've got these basics, but I want to find who I am, or if you're thinking about legacy, like those are different times of life where recommendations on how to invest in your faith might be different. Bless you. So the foundational spiritual practices, I already talked about this. A rooted mind, rooted heart, rooted connections. That's reading and reflecting on the Bible, praying beyond requests, and having a connection with the body of Christ. And I have, there's like the life journal would be, a good spiritual practice. So it has ideas within there. I'm not going to go into the details yet. Growing, pursuing your divine design, growing in relationships, the 5 love languages, understanding how you like to experience love and how the people in your life like to experience love, so that you can love them in their way instead of loving in your way. For marriages, the prepare and enrich assessment is something I do with premarital couples, but it also is for mid-marriage as well. So those are things about healthy and good relationships. And then growing in purpose, the unique sermon series and the groups that we did really got at your divine purpose for this phase of life. And the tools that it had are the best that I've found for breaking down, where am I in this phase of life? What is my purpose as a follower of Christ? Also growing spirit, that's the spiritual pathways. So finding out, are you a naturalist? Are you a sensate? Are you a traditionalist? Are you an ascetic? Are you an activist? Are you a caregiver? Are you an enthusiast? Are you a contemplative? Are you an intellectual? And then finding the practices that help you.
You have lists of those?
Yes, I think they're on our church website, but if not, shoot me an email and I'll send it to you. And then branching out, serving others and making disciples of Jesus. And the making disciples of Jesus part is what Presbyterians and many mainline Christian denominations don't put a lot of emphasis on it, but that's actually, there was a study a while back about the things that actually result in loving God and loving others more. And this number is going to be shocking. How many times you have shared your faith with someone else in a year, not in your lifetime, in a year. The number that correlated with a lot of spiritual growth was 6 per year. I don't know how many times I get 6 per year. I mean, I preach, but like having like a one-on-one conversation, it's, I'm probably 3 or 4 a year tops, and most people might be 6 in their life. So this is something that the act, and it doesn't have to be standing on a street corner, with, fire banners. In fact, I would recommend against that. But what we did that again, kind of a little bit before my sabbatical was your story, my gospel, and figuring out your story so that you can share that story. Once you've got it, you've got your elevator pitch of why faith has mattered to you, being able to communicate that. And one of the best ways I've heard of describing evangelism is having spiritual conversations with friends who are on a journey. So it doesn't have to be strangers. It could be friends. It can be, they're on a journey. You're not like, I'm going to give you the Roman road and you have to commit to Jesus right now. And we're going to pray the Jesus prayer. And like, that's usually not what it looks like. It can look like that. But so these are some ideas, some books that and Blakely helped me come up with some of these as well, because he trains people in this a lot. And then branching out to serve your spiritual gifts. We did that a while back. And again, that's about serving in the way that is life-giving to you, not life-draining. So you put all these pieces together, and that's like a full spiritual life. And when we put all these different trees together, you get that forest of spiritual redwoods. So that's kind of my thought process around having a general approach to discipleship and a personalized approach to discipleship, and putting them together inside of a framework. And how we implement that, well, that's hard, but that's a story for another day. So this is an example of like for one of those life paths, if you're getting started, and we're pretty much out of time, but it has ideas of, getting started for reading the Bible, like read Mark if you want the shortest story of Jesus's life, read John if you want the most poetic, read Romans if you want to know about theology, read Ephesians if you want the summary of the Christian life, memorizing scripture. Here's some good ones. Getting started with prayer. It has ideas of how to start with prayer. Connections, how you get connected in a church. And I already talked about that, so we're good. And I'll go ahead and close it down. Thank you for everyone who is joining us online, and I'll post this video on our church website later as well. That is a serval, because my computer is called a serval. It's the model, and Caleb was really into cats at that time, so we found a serval picture. So signing off, thank you for joining.